Alright, so what we're going to do in this video is start to block out the torso. So you should end up with something like this by the end of the video, where we start to block out where the rib cage is, the breasts, the back. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my other file where we left off last. Oops, that's this one. Let's try that again. Alright, now we want to do a couple things. We want to flip this side image plane. So here's left to right, and I'm just going to select that front map here, and I'm just going to hit flip. So we're looking at this view. And then we want to line up this front view so that the halfway point is on this line. So this is always good practice using non-perfect reference, right? This isn't symmetrical on both sides. So under front to back here, I'm going to just move my horizontal offset off to the side, something like this. And what I'm going to do is, on my sphere, I'm going to hit W, shift it up, like something like that, and then really scale this up. And then on my side view, I'm going to just move it back a little bit. Now there's a trick I'm going to show you, which has to do with this project on mesh. I didn't want to show it to you before because, again, like I mentioned in the previous video, it makes you can get pretty, your models can look pretty lifeless, and it actually doesn't train you to use spatial relationships. You're not training your eye. So what ends up happening is you end up thinking like, oh my God, I projected on there, it looks perfect, but it doesn't, but it doesn't look like the actual model I'm trying to copy. So you always have to sit and sculpt and sculpt and sculpt and sculpt to get that right. This is just sort of a guide. So if I'm going to turn on front so that we can see through it. And what you're going to notice is I'm going to divide this again, and I'm going to grab my move topological. And as I move this around, let's make sure symmetry is on. So I'm going to hit X. I'm just going to pull it down so that it roughly encompasses the body, right? And then to get it even closer, if I grab my project on mesh and I bring that all the way to the right, you'll notice it projects the image onto the mesh. Now it's a neat little trick, but if you don't want to become too reliant on it. I know I mentioned that before. All right, so let's kind of just block this out a little bit more, right? We're going to try to get all these individual pieces in place like this. I'm going to use my left view as my dominant view for this, and I'm going to go ahead and Z-remesh this. So geometry Z-remesh, I'm just going to do 2 for my target count, just to give me a little bit more. Let's smooth that out. Looks like I got a little flat. That's another thing I should have done, is move my back in place, but it doesn't matter anyway, because with the project on mesh, it doesn't project it on the back, which I think kind of stinks. All right, so we kind of have that going on. All right. All right, let's go back to our model itself and use that as a guide. All right, now let's block in the breasts. Now notice that she's wearing a swimsuit, so it's pushing tightly into parts of her body. Like if you look at her thighs, you can see that there's pinching where fat and muscle and tissue meet. And same thing with her breasts. So what we want to do is we want to import in a sphere. So we're going to append a sphere, and we're going to scale that down smaller than the size of her bathing suit. So let's go to the side view here. Let's move that forward. I'm going to go much smaller because we could always move this stuff around. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Q, hit Shift P, and I'm going to go to Z Plugin, Subtool Master, Mirror, and I'm just going to mirror that across. I'm going to merge these down, and then I'm going to Dynamesh it. Now there's connective tissue that holds that fat in place, and it goes into the armpit. So what we're doing here is, notice I'm just drawing out a line like this. We'll bring up our reference now, and we'll start to flatten out the upper area like this. Oops. And then I'm going to grab my clay buildup brush, and I'm going to just block in the rib cage here, coming all the way to the back, just like we did with the male torso. I'm just sort of filling in that area a little bit. And then the stomach as well. Notice I'm just adding clay, pulling it away, right? And what we get is by throwing that clay down the center here, we're getting that blocked in abdomen, we're getting the rib cage, right? Let's kind of pull the sternum in a little bit here. Oops. Sometimes when I hit clay buildup, like I'm sorry, move tool, I'll hit T before I complete the transaction. So C, right? B for brush, M, and then I'll hit T too soon, and it grabs my my move tool. So let's pull that sternum in. Okay, same thing with the belly. The abdomen collects fat in the two spots around the belly button like this. Let's make sure that I'm doing that right. Here's the first, and then the other one's up here. Alright, so we've got that blocked out. I think that's good for now. We'll add the, actually let's bring this down a little bit more. Just block out her pelvis. Alright, we'll go ahead and add the arms in the next one. Let's pull that in just a little bit. Just keep double checking your shape. And then remember what I told you, the giveaway or the win is always Z-remesher. So if you Z-remesh this at like 2000, you'll see it cleans all of your geometry up. Right, because we haven't added any of the muscle. We're actually even starting to get in our rib cage, or I'm sorry, our belly button here. So, alright, that looks good. I'm going to just really quickly before this video is over, I want to block out that where I see the armpit. Alright.